The morning rain drummed against the windows of Sweet Dreams Bakery as Karis Monroe arranged freshly baked cupcakes in the display case. Each one was topped with a tiny sugar violet, her signature touch. She loved these early hours before the customers arrived, when she could think quietly and savor the scent of vanilla and cinnamon. Welcome to Voices of Auntie May. I share new life stories here every day, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Now, let's jump back into my story. I'm sure you'll love it if you keep listening till the end. The phone rang, which was unusual. Customers rarely called so early. Hello, this is Karis. Karis rested the receiver on her shoulder while continuing to arrange the cupcakes. Good morning, Ms. Monroe. I'm Barclay Quinn from the law firm Quinn Owen & Associates. I'm calling about the estate of your godmother, Ms. Iris Holloway. Karis froze. Iris had passed away 3 weeks ago after a long battle with cancer. Karis had attended the funeral, but had since immersed herself in her work, trying not to think about the fact that she would never see the woman who had replaced her mother again. Oh, yes, of course. What can I do for you? Ms. Holloway left you an inheritance. We need to meet for the paperwork. It's quite urgent given the nature of the assets. Assets? Karis interjected. I don't understand. Iris never spoke of an inheritance. Your godmother left you her restaurant, Ms. Monroe. The Legacy Crown. Karis's hand trembled, and one cupcake fell to the floor. The Legacy Crown was the most prestigious restaurant in Atlanta. Politicians, celebrities, and business moguls dined there. Iris had built it over 30 years from a small cafe into a legend. There must be some mistake, Karis murmured. No mistake, Ms. Monroe. Miss Holloway was very clear in her instructions. You were like a daughter to her. She thought you were the only person who could keep the restaurant's legacy alive. An hour later, Karis was sitting in Mr. Quinn's office reviewing the papers that confirmed her ownership of the restaurant valued at several $1 million. Iris knew her diagnosis for over a year, the lawyer explained. She planned everything carefully. In addition to the restaurant, there was a wine cellar, contracts with vendors, and special provisions for the staff. She left a letter with instructions. Karis took the envelope with trembling hands. On it was written to my dearest Karis in Iris's familiar handwriting. Can I take this home? Yes, but we need to finalize the transfer of rights soon. The restaurant can't be without management for long. Karis nodded, still unable to believe what was happening. She remembered her first time walking into the Legacy Crown's kitchen at age 9. Her mother had worked there as a pastry chef until she died of pneumonia when Karis was 14. Iris had then taken her under her wing, paid for her education, and taught her everything she knew about baking. You're special, Karis, Iris often told her. You have hands that feel the dough, and a heart that puts love into it. Lost in memories, Karis barely noticed signing the necessary papers. Everything she knew about the restaurant business she had learned from Iris. But running the Legacy Crown felt impossible. When Karis arrived home, she hoped to read Iris's letter before Jarvis returned, but his car was already in the driveway. They had met 6 years ago at a charity dinner hosted by Jarvis's company. Karis was in charge of desserts. Jarvis approached her with her lavender and honey cake in hand and told her he'd never tasted anything like it. A year later they were married. Karis, are you home? Jarvis sounded tense. She saw him sitting on the sofa with a glass of whiskey, unusual for the afternoon. My mother called, he said. She says you inherited the Legacy Crown. Is it true? Karis froze. She hadn't told anyone yet. So it's true, Jarvis muttered. Why didn't you tell me? I was going to tell you tonight. I just got home. Mom is friends with the wife of one of the waiters at the Crown. They're shocked. Iris left the restaurant to you, not the chef or management. Karis blushed. Of course people would be surprised. She was the owner of a tiny bakery, now inheriting one of the best restaurants in the city. Iris was my godmother. We were close. But a real restaurant, Jarvis paced. This isn't a bakery with 3 tables. It's a multi-million-dollar business. I can do this, Karis whispered. Karis, be realistic. You make cakes, but what do you know about wine lists, staff, finances? I can learn. Jarvis rubbed his face. This is huge. This changes everything. Karis held the envelope tightly. Iris believed in me. Jarvis exhaled. Well, let's see the place tomorrow. We need to know what we're dealing with. Karis blinked. Of course. We're married. What's yours is mine. A strange chill crawled down her spine. Karis didn't sleep that night. She kept the envelope on her bedside table, running her fingers over the handwriting. She wanted to open it, but something stopped her. Fear, maybe. Fear of responsibility. Fear of knowing exactly what Eris expected of her. When morning came, Jarvis was already dressed. Let's go. We should get there before lunch service. Karis nodded. She still hadn't opened the letter. They drove in silence until the glowing gold sign of the Legacy Crown appeared ahead. The restaurant looked even larger than she remembered. Jarvis whistled. This place is worth millions, he muttered. Eris must have been crazy to just hand it over. Karis ignored the sting of his words and stepped inside. Staff members froze when they saw her. Some whispered, some stared openly. Then a woman in her 50s approached, Martha, the restaurant manager. Her face softened. Karis, Martha said gently. Eris told us, if anything happened to her, you would take over. Karis's eyes widened. She told you, she trusted you more than anyone, Martha said. Let me show you around. As Martha led her through the kitchens, the hallways, the private dining areas, Karis's nerves slowly began to steady. Everything felt familiar. Memories of being a child in this space flooded her mind, watching her mother whisk egg whites, laughing with Eris in the pantry, learning to decorate cakes on a small counter. Martha stopped at the door to the wine cellar. Eris wanted you to see this part yourself. Karis stepped inside, and gasped. The cellar was enormous. Shelves reached up to the ceiling, filled with bottles worth thousands. Jarvis's eyes practically gleamed. This alone is worth a fortune, he whispered. Karis, do you understand what you've inherited? Karis wasn't thinking about money. She was thinking about responsibility. When they finished the tour, Martha placed a hand on her shoulder. Everyone here respected Eris, she said. If you choose to run the crown, we will support you. Jarvis cut in quickly. We'll review everything and decide the best financial approach. Martha raised an eyebrow. We. Karis felt the same chill again. Once they left, Jarvis rounded on her. Karis, this can make our lives. But you need help, professional help. You can't run this alone. Eris believed I could, Karis whispered. Eris was sentimental. This is business. Karis swallowed hard. Something inside her cracked. That evening, after Jarvis went to bed, she finally opened the letter. My dearest Karis, if you're reading this, then my time has come. I chose you because you have the heart this restaurant needs. You understand the soul of food. You understand people. Don't let anyone make you doubt yourself, especially those who think more of money than meaning. Choose your advisors wisely. Trust your instincts. You will know who is truly on your side. Asterisk. With all my love, Eris. Asterisk. Tears blurred her vision. Eris knew. She knew Karis would be surrounded by voices trying to influence her. She folded the letter and held it close. The next day, Jarvis made an announcement. I think we should sell. Karis stared at him. Sell. Eris trusted me. This is millions of dollars we're talking about, Jarvis snapped. You think you can run a place like that? Be serious. Karis felt the words like a slap. I don't want to sell. Jarvis's jaw tightened. You're being naive. We're married. This affects both of us. This is my godmother's legacy, she whispered. It's my decision. Jarvis stood up sharply. If you don't sell, don't expect me to support the consequences. It was the first time he had ever spoken to her like that. Over the next week, Jarvis became increasingly agitated. He brought up selling at breakfast, during car rides, before bed. You're throwing away the opportunity of a lifetime. You don't understand business. You're going to ruin us. Karis felt herself shrinking, losing confidence. Then everything changed the day Jarvis invited his mother and sister over without telling her. Karis walked into the living room to find them waiting. His mother spoke first. Karis, dear, Jarvis told us about the inheritance. A woman like you can't manage something so big. His sister snickered. You can barely run your tiny bakery. Karis clenched her fists. Jarvis added, we're trying to help you. Selling is the smart decision. Karis felt something ignite inside her, something Eris had nurtured for years. No. The room went silent. Karis took a deep breath. The legacy crown is not for sale. And I will be the one running it. Jarvis's face turned dark. You're making a mistake. No, Karis said softly. I'm making a choice. That night, Jarvis didn't come to bed. The next morning, Karis met Martha and the staff again, this time with determination instead of fear. I want to honor Eris's legacy, she told them. But I'll need help. Martha smiled. Then you'll have it. They began training her in management, scheduling, wine selection, vendor contracts, everything Eris once handled herself. Karis learned quickly. She listened carefully. She wrote notes. She asked questions. The staff began respecting her, even admiring her. Jarvis, however, grew more distant with every passing day. He stopped coming home on time. He spent nights out. He criticized her constantly. "You're obsessed. You're never home. You don't care about me." Karis kept her focus. Until one night when he said something she would never forget. "You're nothing without me." Karis stared at him quietly. Aris didn't believe that. He slammed the door as he left. Weeks passed. The restaurant showed improvements. Customers noticed. Reviews improved. Food critics praised the changes. Karis was becoming exactly who Aris believed she could be. Then, one afternoon, she received a message that shattered everything. A vendor she'd never met before sent her an invoice, for thousands of dollars, for items the restaurant had never ordered. Confused, Karis checked the purchase records. And her blood ran cold. Jarvis had been placing fraudulent orders under her name. She confronted him that evening. "I found the invoices." Jarvis didn't even deny it. He sat back with a cold smile. "I deserve compensation. You got millions out of nowhere. I deserve my share. You tried to steal from the restaurant." Karis whispered. "Steal?" Jarvis laughed. "I'm your husband. What's yours is mine." Karis stared at him in horror. "No," she said softly. "What's mine is mine." Jarvis stood up. "If you try to fight me, I'll take half the restaurant. Half of everything. And I'll drag you through courts until you break." Karis felt the room spinning. But then she remembered Aris's words. "Choose your advisors wisely. Asterisk. Trust your instincts. Asterisk. You will know who is truly on your side. Asterisk." She squared her shoulders. "You won't take anything from me." Jarvis's smile faded. Karis walked past him toward the door. "I'm done," she whispered. And for the first time in her life, she felt free. Karis filed for separation the next morning. When she arrived at the Legacy Crown, Martha noticed her red eyes. "Rough night?" Martha asked softly. Karis nodded, but she didn't slow down. Work had become the one place where her mind felt clear, where her hands still knew exactly what to do. The kitchen noise, the flour in the air, the warmth of the ovens, it grounded her. Over the next months, she transformed the restaurant. She brought back old recipes she and Aris once created together, added modern twists, introduced community nights, trained staff personally, and built a workplace environment that felt like family, not a hierarchy. Customers noticed. Food critics noticed. Even competitors noticed. One evening, after a busy dinner rush, Karis stood alone in the dining hall, wiping down the last table. The chandeliers glowed softly, shining on the golden walls. She looked around with a quiet, exhausted smile. "For you, Aris," she whispered. She was becoming the woman Aris saw long before Karis saw it in herself. Then came the awards, and the pressure. As media attention grew, Jarvis reappeared like a storm. A lawyer's notice arrived. He was suing her for half the restaurant. Her chest tightened. She felt winded, betrayed all over again. Martha found her shaking in the office. "What happened?" Martha asked. Karis handed her the papers. "He wants half the restaurant. He says he deserves it." Martha's eyes hardened. "He won't win. Not this time. They contacted Mr. Quinn, who reviewed everything. Aris protected you," he said. She anticipated this. She placed the Legacy Crown under a protected inheritance clause, and she insisted on a prenuptial agreement. Karis blinked. "Aris made me sign a prenup without telling me why. She wanted to keep her legacy safe. She trusted you, Karis. And she didn't trust those who would try to use you." Tears rolled down Karis's face. Aris had protected her even beyond death. Court day arrived. Jarvis walked in with an expensive suit and a forced confidence, as if he already knew the outcome. But the moment the judge reviewed the documents, his expression shifted. Mr. Quinn presented evidence of Jarvis's fraudulent invoices, his attempts to drain money from the restaurant, his manipulation, and the prenuptial agreement Aris had arranged years ago. Jarvis's confidence crumbled. The judge dismissed his entire petition. He was ordered to repay the fraudulent charges and cover Karis's legal fees. After the ruling, Jarvis approached her outside the courtroom, his face twisted with anger. "You ruined me," he spat. Karis didn't flinch. For the first time, she saw him clearly, not as the man she once loved, but as the man who never believed in her. "No," she said quietly. "You ruined yourself." She turned and walked away, the doors closing behind her with a final, freeing sound. Karis walked in wearing a lavender gown, her mother's favorite color, her stomach fluttering with nerves. Martha and the entire staff sat together at a round table, cheering her on. Then the host opened the envelope. "And the winner is..." The legacy crown, Karis Monroe. For a moment, Karis couldn't move. The room erupted in applause. People stood. Her staff cried. Martha covered her mouth with trembling hands. Karis climbed the stage slowly, overwhelmed. This award, she began, voice cracking, belongs to Iris Holloway, who believed in me long before I believed in myself. To my mother, who taught me that love is the secret ingredient in every recipe. And to the staff of the Legacy Crown, who became my family when I needed one. The audience applauded again, louder than before. After the ceremony, Karis returned to the restaurant alone. The building was dark and quiet. Only the soft hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. She walked through the kitchen, touching the counters her mother once worked on, the shelves Iris once organized, the pastry station where she learned to make her first cake. Every step felt like walking through her own history. Finally, she entered Iris's old office. She placed the award on the desk. "Thank you," she whispered into the empty room. And then, a soft, warm breeze brushed against her cheek. As if someone stood beside her. As if someone was saying, "I'm proud of you." Asterisk. Karis closed her eyes, smiling through tears. She finally understood. Legacy wasn't money. Legacy wasn't business. Legacy wasn't ownership. Legacy was love carried forward, and courage passed on. And Karis vowed she would carry that legacy every single day she opened the doors of the Legacy Crown.